5 best copywriting books I recommend that you read to step up your copywriting game. Now, I don't have any physical copies of the book per se because, again, I don't have the space for it. So all my books I'm sharing today are all going to be Kindle books. So you're just going to have to listen real carefully. Plus, I'll be putting the links down below, just Amazon links, so at least you can see what it's like. Of course, you can buy a physical copy from other retailers if you want, but that's your choice. Book number 1, and that is called The One Sentence Persuasion by Blair. Now, that book is very useful in terms of learning about human psychology and learning how to influence them. As a copywriter, I need to understand about human psychology, right? Because that affects how I write. Again, the more I understand about human emotions, the better job I'll be doing as a copywriter. And there were some pretty cool tips. I think there was one in particular, a bit of a spoiler, but it's just a small part. I'm not going to say which chapter it is. Anyways, is that if you align with whatever words you say, so if you help somebody to come realize one of their deepest desires, you can get them to do whatever you want them to. If you let them know that you believe in what they want to believe, which is pretty dangerous, but can be pretty good. I mean, think about how many charismatic leaders got people to do things that they normally wouldn't have done. So again, human persuasion, right? It's a very, very powerful tool once you understand that. Book number 2, and that is the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Blair. Now, in this book, there's a lot of real-life examples that he ties with basic and more advanced copywriting tactics. And so, it's much easier to understand copywriting topics when there are real life examples tied to it. Again, so if you're looking for a book that just have a lot of real life examples in which the author uses copywriting and how that ties together, that's the book I recommend. Book number 3, and that is Ogilvy on Advertising by David Ogilvy. Now, I hope I pronounced that right, but you're gonna see in the description anyways. So the book has plenty of examples, written real life examples of forms of copywriting that they did in the past, so probably between around 1950s to the 1990s. So you're probably going to see more examples in that book, like direct mail advertising. In case you don't know what direct mail is, it's those things you get in the mail, those ads, those catalogs where they sell stuff, or how they sell newspaper. So old school advertising, and also doing TV commercials as well. So even though the real life examples in the book I found are a bit dated, right? Because now we have digital marketing now. I want you to pay more attention to the principles, not so much to the tactics. But it's a pretty good read, if you want to find out how copywriting was done in the past before digital marketing. Book number 4, and that is Made to Stick by Heath. Now, I read this book a couple of times, and this is a pretty good book if you want to figure out how humans think, how do you influence people. One of the examples still got to be a bit of a spoiler. It has to do with Texas, right? So I'm not going to say too much of it, but Texas at some point had issues with litter, right? And so whoever was the spokesperson for that, trying to get Texans to clean up more, was to tell them the facts, and all that stuff. The problem was that, of course, they didn't do it emotionally, right? And with people, if you don't convince them emotionally, then they're not going to do what you want them to do, right? You want to give them the idea to think that they came up with the idea. And so that's a pretty good example in the book. I don't want to say too much on how they actually solve it, but they came up with a pretty creative way in terms of how to use copywriting to convince Texans to pick up the litter. Okay. Now that kind of reminds me, in terms of communication with coronavirus, I believe that whoever was the spokesperson for the coronavirus is that they need to appeal to the emotions of their audience first before saying the facts, like all these stats and stuff. If you say the stats before, the emotion, it ain't gonna work. And on the other thing, it's like what they call appeal to ego, right? You need to make them feel like, hey, you know what? If I don't, especially in this pandemic, then, if you don't, again, appeal them emotionally, well, they're not going to do it anyways, even with all the convincing logic. So logic is good afterwards, but first you got to hit the emotion part. And so I feel this is a good book. Book number 5, and that is How to Write a Good Advertisement, a short course in copywriting by Victor O. Schwab. Now, this book, focused more on the basics of copywriting, or just really the tactical parts of copywriting. So that's what the focus on, especially if you're a beginner copywriter. They have very short examples, so you kind of get right to it. A very good book, even for expert copywriters to review their basics whenever they need to. So this is a book I recommend if you need to cover more the tactical part of copywriting. Now, one of the things that was mentioned in the book is the importance of headlines. Now, if you know, headlines are very important in any pieces of copy because that's the first thing somebody sees, really, is to get them to read the next thing. So the book does talk more about headlines, but that's just one of the things they will talk about in the book. So if you like the book recommendations that I made and you would like more book recommendations on copywriting, let me know in the comments down below. And remember that all these Amazon links that are posted, they're not affiliate links, right? So I don't get any commission if you buy these books or not. These are not affiliate links. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below and give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. Until next time.